Hey everybody, Steve here, and here's a look at all the stories we're following from the AFR News Desk for September 8th, 2015. Our lead story this week comes from over at Eagle-Gryphon Games, where they've announced some new expansions for their Baseball Highlights 2045 game. The two new expansions, entitled Big Fly and Errors, will introduce some new actions to the game, including pinch runners, hit and runs, errors, and wild pitches. In addition to these expansions, they're also going to have 12 new starter teams, and these will feature the same amount of players that are included in the 4 starter teams from the box right now, but this is your chance to get your favorite city. Some of them include Baltimore, Cincinnati, and Kansas City. Also announced on the pre-order page will be a new deluxe edition of the game that will include all 7 expansions of the game in one box. These pre-orders are up right now over at the Eagle-Gryphon Games website, and they should ship later this month or early in October. Now let's take a look at some Kickstarter updates. In the past week, Soccer 17 reached its funding goal with about $520 to spare, and the game will be produced. If you missed out on the Kickstarter and you'd like to get a copy and also help them unlock a stretch goal to get better cards, they just announced today that they will be offering you that opportunity. I'll post a link to the website below, and it's jackdgames.com/soccer_17. You can get the game for the same Kickstarter price, and if they are able to raise $479 is their current goal, they'll upgrade all of the cards to a better stock. The Fantasy Football Draft Deals and Dice campaign was canceled 3 hours before the end of its funding period, and the game was a long way off from its goal. However, the designer of the game in his last update has vowed that he will relaunch the campaign sometime later. And finally, the Crack of the Bat campaign has reached over $1,200 and has 10 days left on that campaign. And now let's take a look at new releases. Just one new release to talk about, and it's a really exciting one. It's the 1957 set for second season football from Play.com. Now, we've discussed this on the show, and if you follow our Facebook page, I posted some pictures of it. What's really fascinating about this set is that while it comes with all of the NFL teams from that 57 season, it also includes the AFL teams that would not come into existence until 1960. And so what this game does, it takes a look at a what-if scenario if the AFL had opened in 1957, and what Keith Avallone did, he meticulously researched what real-life football players would have been available to play in 1957, but for one reason or another were not on a professional team. So really interesting set. Head on over to play.com to check that out. You can get the color PDF version of it for just $19. And now it's time for the question of the week. So last week in the show, I asked everybody what they thought about having miniatures in sports board games. There were only a handful of comments this week, but a couple of people did mention something that I had completely forgot about, and that was the MLB Sports Clicks. This was a collectible game that was released, I think, back in 2004, and it featured little miniatures of some of the most popular baseball players at the time, and it was a dice game, but everything that you would look up for the player was right on their dial, and as the player either got hot or cold, you could click down their dial so they would have worse or better stats. It was an interesting game. It didn't last very long. I think it only had one release and then it went away. But thank you for everybody that left comments. I had completely forgot about that. It was a nice little nostalgia trip. For this week's question, I'd like to simply ask everybody, What else would you like to see on the AFR channel? Now that we've been in existence here for over 2 years and sort of hit our stride, so to speak, we're over 800 subscribers, really hoping to crack that 1,000 mark before the end of the year. And so I'd like to ask everybody, what's something that you haven't seen on the channel that you would like to see, or maybe what's something that you would like to see more of? Really interested to hear what everyone has to say, and I'll highlight a couple of the comments on next week's show. And finally, it's time for channel updates. Alright guys, so I know I said I was going to get a review out over the weekend, but as I'm finding promising to do something like that over a holiday weekend is something I probably shouldn't do anymore. So this week I'll look to get out my review on Platinum Series Baseball, and of course the news will go up next Tuesday. If you haven't already, please check out the AFR 2-minute drill that was on this week's Dice Towers board game breakfast, and I'll post links to that below. Alright everybody, that's all for now. Thank you for watching. My name's Steve, and I'll see you next time after further review.